Here's who we think will make the Mariners roster before pitchers and catchers report. Colby, hit it.
You are Locked On Mariners, your daily Seattle Mariners podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Ahoy, sailors. It is Wednesday, February 4th, 2026. You're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. My name is Titan Gonzalez, and I'm joined as always by my co-host Colby Patnode. We're two lifelong Mariners fans who've been covering the team for over half a decade. And today, we're going to do our first 26-man roster projection of the spring. And after we do that, once we have it all, laid out in front of us, we're going to talk about what we would change and what the Mariners could potentially add from the outside, all that good stuff. We'll also tell you about one of our new projects we need your help with. But before we do, I want to shout out our title sponsor today, FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. And if you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So, Colby, you've got a 26-man roster projection. I've got a 26-man roster projection. I think we attack these a little bit differently from one another, but we're going to go through these. And again, like I said, we will then talk about like what we would change and all that stuff. You want to kick us off, buddy?
Boy, do I.
Oh,
Guys,
yeah.
This is going to be literally the greatest 26-man roster projection prior to pitchers and catchers reporting that you have ever heard.
Uh-huh. Yes.
Yes. So I guess we'll start, behind the dish, since it is number 2 in your scorecard. I think Cal Raleigh probably makes this team and is the everyday catcher. That would be my hunch.
To quote Colby Patnode.
Yeah. I know this is a new Colby, so
right.
I know you guys are disappointed by that, but yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. Yeah, so Cal obviously going to be the catcher, and then the backup catcher. It's not as cut and dry as we thought. About a couple weeks ago. The days are running together, but I still think Kzizner is going to be the backup. He doesn't have an option left, so if he doesn't win the job, then you'd have to DFA him. And with the state of backup catcher around the league, it probably gets claimed, or he probably declines an assignment and goes and signs with a major league team. So yeah, Pereda might be better. I think they're pretty similar. But he's got an option left. And so you can just stick him in AAA all year and not have to worry about, we need a catcher. Now we have to go and call up, no disrespect to friend of the show, Brian O'Keefe, but, yeah. So, yeah, I think Kzizner gets the nod just because, again, he has to make the team. Otherwise you risk losing him. He does appear to be a slightly better pitch framer than Pereda, but, Pereda's probably better blocking, probably better arm. Offensively, it's hard to say with either of these guys. You're not expecting much from your backup catcher anyways. And I think the thing that the Mariners value most out of their catchers defensively is the pitch framing aspect of things. And I think they like Kzizner a little bit better there. So I think he'll get the nod. But, it's worth noting that both of these guys, they did perform very well in AAA, which, makes sense since they're both
old,
let's say seasoned veterans, because they're not old. They're not old. They're Kzizner's 30 and Pereda's 29, but
I'm turning 30 this year. I'm old. Yeah, so Andrew Kzizner is old.
They've been around the block of baseball for quite a bit, so they should perform well in AAA. But Kzizner, I think there's been some changes that he's made to his game that the Mariners probably want to see through. And again, if it doesn't work, then they'll go with Pereda, and Pereda's just flat out better. They still might do that because they only gave Kzizner $1 million. They're not going to be afraid to walk away from that. Yeah,
like you said, Kzizner, he could get cut out of camp just because they don't really owe him anything financially. But I think he sticks to start things off, and then we'll see how it goes after a few weeks. I think they like what progress he made over the last couple of years with the pitch framing, all that, and that's still going to be an important part of the game, even with the challenge system being in place, because not every pitch is going to get challenged, right? Not every borderline call is going to be worth challenging for guys.
Get two,
yeah. Yeah. So
Yeah.
odds are he's not going to give you anything offensively, but hopefully he's decent enough defensively that it's not an absolute disaster. But if it is, at least you have Pereda in your back pocket. So
Yeah.
you can keep Kzizner on a short leash.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's jump to the outfield because I don't think there's really any surprises coming here.
No.
It's Randy, Julio, Victor Robles, Luke Raley, Dom Canzone, and Rob Refsnyder.
Yeah. Yep.
It's possible one of these guys gets traded before opening day, and obviously that would open up another spot. But for now, I'm going to stick with this, although I did make maybe one or two outside additions in my projection, but we'll get to that later.
Okay.
But I'm not going to do too many of them because this is not what I would like the 26 man to look like. This is what I think it's going to look like. We'll get to what I want it to look like a little later.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think the outfield is pretty much set unless they trade one of these guys. I just don't see them sending down Canzone. And I don't think that they're going to, trade Raley for, a bag of balls. I think they're going to want something of value for Raley, and I don't know if they're going to get it. And he still fits because he can play all three outfield spots just like Robles. And as we know, the Mariners really think Luke Raley can also play first base, which is why they put Refsnyder as, a first base / outfielder as well. So you can never have too many backup first basemen, as I've often been told on Twitter. So yeah, get your face out of the camera.
I'm trying to fix my screen. We're having technical issues mid-show right now. We're good now. We're good.
All right. So yeah, that's the outfield. I mean, I don't think there's going to be any big surprises there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, not at all. I mean, we'll talk about this later when we get into like what we would change and all that. Yeah, one of these guys could get traded or Canzone could get sent down. That's probably not going to happen. But like, that is an option available to them, though.
And the Mariners can run with a 7-man bullpen.
Right, exactly. It's basically the same thing as talking about that. Like, it is an option.
No.
Yeah, it's an option available to them. Are they actually going to do it? No. So it's not really worth talking about.
Most years, the Mariners would prefer to have a 9-man bullpen and a 3-man bench if they were allowed to. So, yeah. So there you go.
My projection is what I think the Mariners will do. No more moves, all that stuff. All that assumed. So the infield, this is where things kind of start to get interesting. Naylor, Young, Crawford, Donovan. I got Colt, Emerson making it.
I don't.
Okay.
I have Naylor, Young, Crawford, Donovan, Rivas.
Okay.
So yeah, it comes down to how important is it to have a right-handed option who can play in the infield for the Mariners, because they don't have one right now, if not Rivas. And just based on the history of the Mariners, they care about handedness more than they maybe should or shouldn't, but they do. And I think when you look at I think what it comes down to is Young or Emerson, one of these guys. It doesn't make sense to have one of these guys on the bench, right? You want them playing as much as you can. I think they're going to give the edge to Cole Young just because he's been in the big leagues. He's a couple years older. It's his second crack at it. He's more proven in the minors. You can send Colt Emerson down. He can get everyday at bats against lefties and righties down in AAA. He can get a maximum amount of reps at third base down there without having to worry about. He can work out some of the finer details. Also, it allows Brennan Donovan to get maximum amount of reps at third base early in the year, so that if you do call up Emerson and he struggles and you have to send him back down, well, now you're not like Donovan started the year at second and now he's having to learn third on the fly. You do that early in the year, so you can kind of kill two birds with one stone there. You get the switch hitting presence of Rivas to be kind of the backup shortstop, platoon infielder to kind of help you with Cole Young a little bit. Again, this is where I would like them to add a veteran. And I almost did have them add a veteran, but I decided not to in this particular case. But yeah, I think when I think of the Mariners, I think they care about handedness quite a bit. And I think it comes down to Emerson or Young. But I think the benefits of sending Emerson down, letting him play every day at AAA for more than a week, letting him learn third base, letting Donovan get comfortable at third base. We know he's comfortable at second. I think you add that all up and you add having the right-handed hitter who can move around the infield too on your bench. I just think that that's going to be too enticing for the Mariners. And it's interesting because I know they've been hyping up Emerson all winter and like, he's the guy. They only just got Donovan. So we haven't really had them explain, or, we haven't heard them talk about the infield mix since Donovan's been added. And I wonder if that changes things in their mind. Maybe it doesn't, because I do think that they're interested in the draft pick thing, but I think it's kind of a long shot that he wins it anyway. So they kind of have to do a balancing act here, but I just went with Young, but it could very well be Emerson.
Now they might've just been doing this in case, they didn't get Donovan and they wanted to get fans excited about something. So that's why they've been, hyping up Colt Emerson so much. But I don't know. I would just find it weird after like all the hype this winter that they have done when they haven't had to do that for Emerson. I just think it would be weird and kind of anticlimactic if he didn't make the club. So we'll see. But obviously, if Emerson makes it and nothing changes in the outfield and they keep 8 relievers, which they're going to do, like we talked about. Like there's no point in talking about that because they've always kept 8 relievers, especially at the start of the season, especially with how much they've talked about, like, how much these guys have thrown and all that stuff. Of course they're going to keep 8 relievers. Then that means that every single one of your infielders is left-handed. So we'll talk more about that. We'll also do our pitching side of our 26-man roster projection in just a moment. But first, a reminder, this episode of the Locked On Mariners podcast is brought to you by FanDuel and the Space Needle. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff, the final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60. The Hawks are in it, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of the action with a special offer just in time for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding with the underdog, or building one last same game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, stats turn into storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count, because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Pine to Pie at the Space Needle is the perfect pregame or pre-funk spot before hitting Climate Pledge Arena. After 4 p.m., the Space Needle's Pine to Pie gives you the whole package. Entry, a sweeter savory tip-top pie, and a pint of beer, wine, or a non-alcoholic drink, all for just $35 per person. Minimum purchase of 2 required. Pine to Pie is your launch pad to Kraken, Torrent, and Storm games, as well as so many other great events at the CPA. So why not enjoy a little space and a great view while pre-gaming with your favorite cocktail rather than trying to cram into a crowded sports bar? Toast the home team, then roll into Climate Pledge with the best pregame story in all of Seattle. Whether it's date night, friend night, or you're just here for the deal of it all, come take your place on the horizon for only $35 per person. Limited time offer, 21 plus only, ID required. Get tickets at spaceneedle.com. Minimum 2 required. And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen for all things Mariners. And also thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. You already live your team every day. Now take it up a level and go ad free. Join the Everydayer Club today and get Locked On Mariners with no interruptions, members only Discord access, and more, all for just $5 a month or $50 a year. Go to lockedonmariners.supercast.com or check the link in the show notes to learn more. So let's continue our 26-man roster projection here, Colby. We're on the pitching side of things now. The rotation, Wu, Gilbert, Kirby, Castillo, Miller. Nothing to talk about there. Let's get into the bullpen here. So I got Munoz, Spire, Brash, Bizardo, Ferreira, Vargas. I think those 6 guys are all locked in. Now we get to the last 2 spots. Kind of interesting.
2 of the last 3 spots really available. There's 1 in the infield, and then there's 2 bullpen spots up for grabs. I think that's the way to look at it.
Yeah. So again, my projection is based on no more moves. Everyone stays relatively healthy, all that.
Sure. blah, blah, blah.
And this is also based on what I think the Mariners would do if they didn't make any further moves. I'm going to go Legumina because he's out of options. I think he's the first guy that gets, the first crack at it. And he did grade out pretty well, even though that he, the overall numbers, he struggled, but he did grade out pretty well in some areas.
Mrs. Bats.
Mrs. Bats got strikeouts. So
got destroyed when he did give up contact.
Yeah. But that might be a guy that we see, because you never know with relievers. But that might be a guy that
he could be off the roster before the end of March.
Yeah. Or he could, or he could stick, right? Like maybe he finally booms this year. Who knows?
A lot of people thought Carlos Vargas was the guy who was going to be off the roster by, the second week of April, and he ended up sticking. So,
and then this last spot, I don't think this is where Alex Hoppe gets called up yet. I think they give him some more time down in the minors. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of the reason that they also went and traded for him instead of waiting to see if they could get him in the Rule 5 was, so they wouldn't be forced to have to put him on the major league roster out of the gate.
Right.
So I don't think Hoppe's the guy here. I don't feel great about this because I don't know what the Logan Evans injury means for him, if anything. But I'm going to go Emerson Hancock here.
Okay.
It's a long relief,
Sure.
Clearly they like what he could potentially bring out of the bullpen. I'm fine with them continuing that experiment to start. And then at the very least, they have some options here in case it doesn't go well. So.
Yeah. So for one of my spots, I went with a guy who's also out of options, but is not an upside play per se. I went with Cooper Criswell.
Okay.
Because the Mariners, the injury to Logan Evans, and because I do think they're going to keep Emerson in the bullpen, they really started to push that transition last year. Emerson, his arm slot dropped all the way from low 3/4 to like true sidearm by the end of the year. And I really think they like what he's doing there. So he could get the nod here, but I think Criswell, he's out of options, but he is a viable number 5 starter. Is his stuff going to play up in the bullpen? No, but I think they want to keep him around for a little bit. Just to see, right? They kind of want to, hey, how does Cole Wilcox look? How does, some of the other starter pile arms, Randy Dobnak, how does he look down in AAA? Like, are these guys who can come up and give me 5-6 innings of 3-4 run ball on a fairly regular basis? And once they feel that way, then I think they'll probably send Criswell down, or they'll DFA him and see if he can clear waivers. They might do it at the end of camp too, though, because a lot of times guys clear at the end of camp because everybody has players they're trying to push through, out of option guys who they're trying to push through to their minor system. So I'm not saying it's definitely going to happen, but I just think the Mariners are going to value the versatility of Criswell being able to pitch out of the bullpen and also in the rotation if needed, particularly early while, they're still kind of waiting. Hey, is Kate Anderson going to be able to help us this year? Is Ryan Sloan going to be able to help us this year? Morales, Taylor Dollard. Yeah, how about that? A Taylor Dollar drop. Are all these guys going to be able to help? Any of these guys going to be able to help us early in the year if we have it? Probably not. Criswell, could he help us if, we have another George Kirby situation like we did last spring? Yes, Criswell would be the guy that they would replace, any injured starter with. And I think they're going to want to have that safety net, at least for the first part of the year. So I give the nod to Criswell. But yeah, it could be Hancock because obviously Hancock has plenty of starting experience too. It's just Hancock has an option left. And so I think that's kind of the difference there. And for my last spot, I'm going Paul Sewald.
The return of the king.
That's right. I'm going Paul Sewald. The Mariners, by all accounts, including what you and I have heard personally, have been shopping for this reliever for the last few weeks. And I think it is trade more than likely, but rather than trying to predict a trade and figure all that out, I just went with a guy who, might be able to get on a minor league deal at this point, and he might battle it out with the likes of Casey Legumina. But Sewald is a guy who has pitched in a lot of roles. He hasn't been as good recently, but I don't need him to be. I have five leverage arms that I'm comfortable with. Vargas and Sewald to kind of cover the middle innings, I feel pretty comfortable with as well. So I think it is going to be somebody like a Paul Sewald. I think that, Paul is just the easy guy to pick because A, the Mariners know him, And B, I think he is, a guy who would take a little bit less from a team like Seattle to get that shot. And, again, it very well might be a minor league deal. And if he makes the opening day roster, we're probably talking about a salary of like $1 million, $1.5 million. That's just where we're at right now. So we'll see. But I do think the Mariners are going to add a bullpen arm from outside the org to be the 7th guy. And that will effectively, leave one spot in the bullpen open. And then the guys who are out of options, the Criswells and the Leguminas, they're going to be battling for that final spot, I think.
Yeah, like I know that they're looking at relievers. I just don't know if they're looking at the Paul Sewald types of the world.
There's just not really any other types out there in free agency. It's pretty well picked over.
Yeah, free agency wise, for sure.
Right.
I don't even know if they're scanning the free agent market.
I like Sewald is really more of a placeholder. It's just a guy who's not in the order.
No, and that would be totally fine. I'm super down to see if like you can still get something out of him. I don't know. The cliff might have come for Paul, unfortunately. But maybe there's something there. And I mean, like it's Paul, so like I'm not gonna say no. Like, of course.
I mean, you're asking him to come in the 6th inning, when you're up 3-1 with a runner on third and one out. It's that pivot guy role that the Mariners like to find a veteran to do it. JT Chargois types. Drew Steckenrider did it. And Sewald could do that too.
Yeah, it's just my assumption has been that like if they do add a reliever from the outside, it's going to be like a pre-arb guy or an arb1 guy.
Yeah, I think they prefer that, obviously, but again, easier said than done. I don't think they're looking necessarily for like a high leverage guy, though. I think they're looking for more of a mid leverage guy.
And again, like we talked about yesterday, I don't think now because like they've traded Senja, they've traded Ford, they've traded the comp round B pick. I'm not sure if they want to trade anything more, from that like group. So we'll see.
Danny Coulombe would be a really nice ad, but do they want to carry 3 lefties? Maybe, but they never have. So
yeah. I was a little surprised that Romero wasn't involved in the Donovan deal, just given the smoke around that leading up to the trade.
I'm
but
convinced that the Romero thing was, heavy-handed from the Cardinals side to be like, oh, well, we'll give you Romero if you give us Laz. And there's the Mariners just like, no, we don't want Romero on there. Yes, you do.
Yeah.
So no.
So
it's like they would love Riley Green, like that type, or Riley Green. Who wouldn't, right? Riley O'Brien.
Of course.
I still think they would like that type of arm to be added, but do they want to spend the resources it would take to get that guy after the Ferrer and the Donovan trade? Maybe. But
and I mean, like, could like Amina pop into being that guy? Could Alex Hoppy be that guy? Maybe.
Sure, but the beauty of the Hoppies and the Robinson Ortiz and the other pile arms is that like every single one of them has at least one option, and I think basically everybody the Mariners added to the pile this winter has 2 or 3 options, with the exception of I believe Ryan Lutos. Remember him? So,
Criswell, if you want to count him as part of the pile.
I think Criswell mostly is rotation depth. Yeah. So not so much a bullpen pile arm, but whatever. Yeah. Dane Dunning, I guess, also fits that role. Man, maybe Dane Dunning makes the team. I don't know, but
maybe.
I do think that there's going to be an outside addition to the bullpen before. Maybe it doesn't happen until the end of spring training. Somebody loses their job and they're they DFA'd or whatever, and the Mariners make a small trade for him. But I do think the Mariners are going to add a bullpen arm to their 26-man before opening day.
And you're listening to the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. As always, if you want to hear from me and Colby even more and help support the show, we have a Patreon. It's called Control the Zone. And on there, we talk Mariners, Seahawks, all that good stuff. For more information, go to patreon.com/Control the Zone. Link in the description of this episode. So Colby, the most interesting spot on this roster is that last Infield spot. So again, if it's Colt Emerson, they don't make any other moves, like we talked about yesterday, like I talked a little bit about earlier in this episode, all of your infielders are left-handed hitting, which might not be an issue, but we know that the Mariners care about handedness. Scott Service cared a lot about handedness. Dan cares about handedness quite a bit as well. I have a hard time seeing them go into the season with no right-handed hitting option in their infield. And Rob Refsnyder doesn't count, even though that they listed him as a first baseman. Like I'm talking about someone that can play some third, someone that can play some second, maybe even a little bit of shortstop.
Like an actual real infielder.
Yeah. Right now, that guy is Leo Rivas. I don't think Ryan Bliss is an option here. I know some people in the comments will bring him up, but I think right now Bliss, like he's only played 6 baseball games since April, and then he had another surgery after those 6 games. Like he needs to just go play some games and get his legs back under him, and then and then we'll reassess after a couple of months on that front.
Yeah.
So like on one hand, I have a hard time seeing Emerson not make the club out of spring, just given all the hype around him. But on the other, I can't really envision them going into the regular season without a true right-handed hitting option in the infield. So something has to give here, right? So either it's as simple as Emerson doesn't make the club, but look, even if Emerson, makes the club on May 1st instead of March 26th, this still might be a thing that the Mariners have to address. At least at that point, you might have more information on Cole Young, right? And then like you swap out Young for Emerson, Rivas is already on the roster, whatever. Or, you have more information on Luke Raley, and maybe you're at a point where, unfortunately, you DFA also him. Yeah, or Canzone, you just send him down. Yeah. So like at that point, you might have more information to do something like that, but maybe you don't, right? And you still have to kind of deal with this conundrum, if you will.
This is sort of the problem with having multiple platoons in your starting lineup. 3 is basically impossible. 2 is really pushing it. 1 is fine usually. But this is one of the problems. Now, one thing we can keep in mind also is you go, all these lefties, if Donovan and Naylor are like 88 to 92 WRC pluses against lefties, that's fine. That's not really a platoon problem that you have to address. Donovan last year was 75 in his career. He's been closer to 88. So it's, which version of Donovan are you getting against lefties? Naylor, kind of the same thing. He's been okay against lefties, mostly playable, but JP's pretty much always been good against lefties, even better against lefties sometimes than righties. So you're not really worried about JP and his platoon. Emerson's never had platoon splits in the minors, but again, that's the minors. It's quite a big difference there. And then Cole Young is kind of like, we'll see. The Mariners very much wanted to protect him against lefties last year. How do they feel about him this year? Like, again, if your lefties are putting up like, 5 to 10% below, or 5 to 15% below like league average numbers against lefties, you're probably fine. You just live with that. You wait for them to bring in the righties that they're going to eventually. But you would like to, not have Cole Young and Colt Emerson in your lineup when you're facing Max Fried or Garrett Crochet, or like, you probably want to give those guys, at least one of those guys, a blow on that particular day. So I just think that the Mariners' desire to have, some balance in their lineup is going to outweigh, because that's been consistent throughout the entire, Jerry, tenure here, is like they like right, left, or left, right. They really like to build lineups like that when they can. And they are right now, it is 2 true righties and a switch hitter. Randy, Julio, and Cal.
Yeah.
And then on lefty days, Refsnyder, maybe Robles. So maybe they think they have enough. But again, I think they would like a right-handed hitting infielder, and they're in luck. There are actually a few options here that aren't going to cost really anything that they could go get. So we'll see if they do.
And even if it's just Rivas, like that's fine.
Sure.
But the issue here, though, is just I don't want to trade Luke Raley to make room for for Rivas or whoever it is, for a bag of chips.
No.
Like that's a tough pill to swallow.
I'm going to trade Raley. I want that reliever that I'm looking for right now.
Because we're talking about a guy that like clearly injury has had a huge impact on why he struggled last year. And going into last year, he was coming off of back-to-back 129 WRC plus seasons. Pretty athletic dude.
Destroys right-handed pitching.
He does the the little things, the dirty things, all that. He can hit at T-Mobile Park. Like, he's a really good fit for this club. Yep. So trading him for essentially nothing just to make room for probably a worse player, that wouldn't sit right with me. No. So like, ideally, if you're moving on from Raley, it's to get that seventh reliever, help you get that seventh reliever, like an actual good reliever. Can you do that though? Is that realistic?
Sure. I think, like if I'm trading Luke Raley, I want a major leaguer. I want a major league for major leaguer swap. Or it's like, okay, can I trade Luke Raley for, a comp round A or comp round B pick?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want a 25-year-old AA reliever. I don't want a 28-year-old, career AAA infielder. That's not what I want for Luke Raley. I want a major leaguer, like one who's definitely going to crack the 26-man roster for me. Or I want, like, again, a kind of an overpay on prospect capital, which is probably, I would say comp round B pick, but apparently Ben Williamson's worth a comp round B pick. And if he's worth that, Luke Raley should be at least worth that. So, we'll see what they do. But again, I think they're going to want that, that right-handed hitting infielder. And I do think that the benefits of sending Emerson down to start the year, I do think they outweigh the small fringe possibility that he wins Rookie of the Year in this super crowded, class that's coming. That includes, again, Murakami and Amai and Akamoto. They all ended up in the American League, and he's going to have to beat all those guys. And that's not counting the other very talented rookies like Paseo in Baltimore. Yeah, Savage. Yeah, exactly. So, like, to me, that is such if he does great, like if he ends up like winning the Rookie of the Year and you don't get a draft pick because he wasn't fine, that sucks. But that's the risk you run. Like, that's the ball game. And by the way, it only sucks a little bit because that means he was a really, really good player this year, and you're probably won the West, and you're probably World Series favorites if that happens. So, not exactly a bitter pill to swallow.
No. I guess as far as right-handed hitting options go, though, like, again, Rivas would be fine. How good is he really just in general? We don't really know, but how good is he specifically against righties? He didn't hit for average against them this past year, but he walked a ton against them. He walked out at like a 21% clip. So
you mean against lefties?
Sorry, against lefties. As a righty against lefties. So but if they do go outside, there are some options. Like he said, Luis Rengifo, that's another switch hitting option who can play, some third, some second. Andy Ibanez, though, that's the guy that really stands out to me. He was DFA'd by the Dodgers yesterday. He has historically crushed left-handed pitching. This past year, he was only a 99 WRC plus against lefties, but the year before that, I think he was like a 129. The year before that, he was like a 118. So, all right, maybe crushed is pushing it a little bit, but like, he's been really good against lefties. He was a really good option off the bench for the Tigers, and he's actually not that bad of a defender. And he can play some third, he can play some second, he can play some first. Can't play shortstop, but still, like, I think that would be the guy. If it's not Rivas, I think Ibanez is the dude here, and I would like for them to try and claim him here or try and trade for him. Though I'm not sure how that works because he did get signed by the Dodgers this offseason. And typically you can't trade free agent signees, until June, but because he was DFA'd, I assume you could trade him.
I think you'd have to claim him. I don't know if he's like, I know, like, if you have 5 years of service time, you can decline the like sending back down to the minors, which would make him a free agent. I don't think Ibanez is there. So he might, if nobody claims him, he might just end up in, AAA for the Dodgers.
And Ibanez, it's kind of a Kzizner thing, right? Like, he's making $1.3 million. So, like, if you did claim him and you just took on the salary that the Dodgers gave him, like, Yeah, you can just move on from him because it's
Sure.
really not that much more than the league minimum.
No, not wanting to give, it makes sense now, much more sense now to sign Ibanez than it did even a week ago or whenever Ibanez signed, because now you have, the everyday player that you were looking for. Ibanez is not really an everyday player. I'm still more of a Ramon Urias guy myself. He's just a better defender, better against righties in general. Like, he actually could be an everyday player. But, he also plays shortstop. He can play shortstop, which Ibanez can't. But again, Urias is a guy. Ibanez is a guy that's out there. Rengifo is still a guy who's out there. He's bad last year, but he's traditionally crushed left-handed pitching. He can also play second and third. Probably fake it at short for a day or two, but whatever. Like, there are some legitimate options out there. And I think, the ideal, like, best thing that could happen, like, that's remotely plausible, is some kind of like Luke Raley for Edmundo Sosa trade with the Phillies. I think that would be phenomenal for the Mariners, because Sosa plays all three spots. He's pretty darn good there defensively, and he actually hits quite well. And you don't get him for a year. But yeah, so there are some legitimate options out there that, could be had for probably less than $2-3 million. Like, the money is not going to be the reason why the Mariners can't go get this piece if they so want it. We're so close to pitchers and catchers. Urias and Rengifo might have to take minor league deals. Like, so we'll see how it goes. And then obviously Ibanez, if he clears, if he becomes a free agent, he might take a minor league deal, especially since I'm pretty sure he still gets that $1.4 million fully guaranteed. So there are options out there. Like, this isn't one of those cases where it's like, I'd like for them to get a right-handed hitting infielder, but there's just not really a lot out there. I'm not saying there's a lot, but there's quite a few pieces, and they all fit and they all make sense.
Yeah, that's the easy part. The hard part here is the corresponding move. How do you make the room for that guy if Emerson makes the club?
Then I think you have to send Canzone down. But does that feel like something the Mariners would do?
That's not going to happen. No, it feels pretty clear to me that Raley's the guy. All right, before we get out of here, we got a few projects that we've been cooking up that we're going to start doing here over the course of the spring leading up to the start of the regular season that we're going to need your help with. And we're going to announce one of those right now. So, Colby, what are we working on?
Couple things. But most notably right now, we're doing our annual fan poll, where we ask you guys, it's essentially the same questions every year. We're just kind of trying to gauge where you guys are at with the franchise. And we did this last year. We ended up with just shy of 550 responses. So, if we could get 600 responses, that'd be nice. Maybe even 1,000. I don't know. But it's just a poll where we ask you, I think there's 11 questions on here. It's just stuff like, how excited are you about the current roster? What do you think of the front office? Do you trust ownership? And then it's a bunch of like, who's going to win the team MVP and all that stuff. You don't have to give us your name. You don't have to give us your email, nothing like that. You just answer the questions, hit submit, and that's it. We're not after your data or anything like that. So we're just trying to get a gauge of where, the listening audience is on this team. I imagine if we did this poll a week ago, it would be a little bit different than it is right now. But hey, we do this every year around. We do this every year around this time. We usually collect data. We usually collect your responses for about a month. Yeah,
careful.
For about a month, and then we'll shut the thing off. And then sometime in March, we'll reveal the results. And it's just a fun little thing that we do just to kind of gauge the reaction of the fan base and where they sit. So the link, I assume, will be in the description down below. And again, you just fill it out and it's just multiple choice. You just hit 12 buttons and you're done. And it just helps us out and just, lets us know where you guys are at. So that'll be going on throughout the month of February, but we're telling you now, click the link. We'll remind you throughout the month. We'll probably close down that poll around the 1st of March. So it's going to be, a little less than a month up, and then once we're done with that, we have another fun project that you guys are going to get to participate in as well. So yeah, 'tis the season.
That's right. So yeah, be sure to vote in the poll, and then we'll be doing a show around the results of that poll sometime in March. So yeah. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our show. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Locked On Mariners podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And once again, if you never miss an episode, it's time to make it official. Join the Locked On Everyday Club and get ad-free audio, access to our members-only Discord, and more, all built for our most loyal fans. For Colby Patnode, I'm Titan Gonzalez. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at LO_Mariners. You can follow me at Titan Gonzalez and Colby at CPAT11. That's CPAT11. We're also on Blue Sky. You can follow me at TDG, Colby at MLB Colby, and the show at Locked On Mariners. You can also find us on Instagram at Locked On Mariners. Have yourself a beautiful baseball day, and we'll see you next time. Peace.